Okay, so I'm recording now. Those of you who are just coming in, my name's Tara Short. I'm the founder and director of Green Adventures Tours. Tonight we're talking about the Iceland trips that Green Adventures offers, and we're going to be talking about our two itineraries: the Laugavegur trek and our South Coast and Snæfellsnes Peninsula 9-day trip. Okay. All of a sudden, I can't see my everything. Everybody's sorry. Sorry. Play slideshow. How there we go. Lordy Lord. Okay. So here's so Green Adventures. I like to say that that Iceland is a tiny island with a really big personality. And I honestly wasn't very interested in going to Iceland at first. I had a lot of misconceptions. And usually I think that's what leads to the most fascinating experiences, right? When you're like, oh, I think it's going to be like this. And then you're like, wow, it's like this. So I didn't want to go to Iceland because everyone was going to Iceland, in my opinion. And it was kind of like the reason why I didn't want to go to Costa Rica at first with groups, because I feel like everybody was going to Costa Rica and I was trying to create these off the beaten path experiences. And once I actually got to Iceland, I realized that there's just so much more than the Golden Circle, and the Golden Circle is basically where a lot of people who are traveling to Europe or from Europe will on their stopovers will just get off for a day or two and just go see some of the common sites, and then they go in Reykjavik and outside of Reykjavik, and then they go back on their flight and continue on. Yeah, so just kind of an idea where Iceland is this little tiny island in the North Atlantic, and actually it is it's got some unique geology because it's part of the North American plate and part of the Eurasian plate, because there's a mantle, a hot mantle that's coming up from the seafloor here on the on the Atlantic plate here, the boundaries that are separating the North and European plates, and so it's coming up from that. So it's not Europe or Iceland. I'm sorry, Europe or North America. It's kind of like born of the two plates, and it's got some really unique features. I mean, I always tell people, if you don't like waterfalls and rainbows, you should probably not come to Iceland, because that's you're going to see lots of those. Also, I mean, you've got the geothermal features because it's on a super volcano. You've got this land of that is contradicts that, which is the land of ice. So you have these glaciers, and one of the largest glaciers in Europe is on Iceland. And also you have some of these cool places that some people say are overrated, but you got to go there. It's like the Blue Lagoon, for example, and it's a man-made geothermal setting because they're pulling the deep they're pulling ocean water from like deep in the crust, and it's heated, but it's got these minerals in it. That's why it gets this milky bluish color. And then you also have these places that a lot of people will never get to see unless they specifically plan on taking a guide to the backcountry, and we have the Laugavegur trek, which is in the Northern Highlands. So it's got a lot to see and experience in a short period of time. And as a matter of fact, it kind of feels like a couple of different planets. I mean, you feel like you could be on the moon in one spot with the expansive sand, volcanic sand flats, or Antarctica with the ice. Or maybe Venus with the geothermal areas. But why come to Iceland with Green Adventures? One is that I want you to know that I have scouted out the places that I'm taking people to, and it's not just some cookie cutter tour that I found off a website. We are working with local guides, and that will give kind of a unique perspective of their life in Iceland, and they could tell their local stories and local folklore. And then also on my Iceland trip, I really with the multi-day South Coast tour, I've really focused on getting in as many activities as possible so that people can see the wild side of Iceland. And also, I want people to feel like if you're traveling solo or with a friend, no matter what, you have instant travel buddies. And we are gonna you're gonna travel with a group, and that group by day 3, usually I call it the magic day 3. By day 3, it feels like we've known each other forever. So it's a very supportive learning environment. And then also something to keep in mind that both Iceland trips are active. I mean, you're going to need a vacation from your vacation with Green Adventures, and definitely on the Laugavegur trek, which is a hike, and even on the South Coast trip, because we're doing something every day. Now, getting to Iceland, people usually think, when they think of Iceland in the capital, they think of Reykjavik. Reykjavik is the capital of Iceland, but the airport that you're going to fly into is Keflavik, and the airport code is KEF. So Iceland Air is the most popular airline in terms of getting to Iceland. And I put down here at the bottom that just in this area, just the different cities. I mean, they have a lot of departure cities: Denver, Chicago, Minneapolis, Seattle, Boston, Cleveland, Dallas, Portland, JFK, Tampa, Newark, Philadelphia, and Anchorage. And good news is that if you're looking at a schedule to book your airfare, all these cities are back on the Iceland Air website. When COVID closed the borders, they took all these cities out. They just kept Boston. So this is a good step moving forward in terms of our planning. But so Iceland Air is your most popular airline. There may be some connections like American Airlines connecting with an Iceland Air. I would do your best when planning your trip to try to go to Iceland Air's website and book directly with Iceland Air. Don't try to do partner shares. You could also use a travel agent that we work with, and anybody who signs up on the trip, in the pre-trip materials, you get the travel parameters, specifically on when to arrive, when to depart, and then you also get the travel agent's name. So when you get to the airport, when you land, most flights from North America land between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. So you will take a nighttime flight, 6 p.m. the night before. If your trip starts on the 13th of July, that means you fly on the 12th of July overnight. You land between 6 and 10 a.m. And I don't include airport transfers in any of the packages for my Iceland trips. And that's because I have found that it's just a waste of money for the traveler, because not everybody flies in at the exact same time. And depending on if you're coming all the way from the West Coast or if you're coming from, the East Coast, you may need to be a little bit more flexible with your arrival time. And if you just, so why pay for one group shuttle? So instead, I give everybody instructions to get the fly bus. So when you walk out of Keflavik International Airport, first of all, you go through immigration. Second, you go through customs. And there's really not even a customs. Unless you're declaring something, you don't even have to stop. You get your bag, you go outside, and you see a line of fly buses. And you'll have already paid for your ticket, which is $30, and you just get on the fly bus, and then they take you into, they drop you off right in front of the guest house. It's super simple. So the entry requirements for US citizens as of now, so passport valid for 3 months. From May 1st, these are the things that will determine if US travelers can go to Iceland. It'll be proof of your COVID vaccine or proof of a prior infection that you've had COVID. All travelers from a green or orange country will present a negative PCR test, the nasal test before travel, and one upon arrival in Iceland. You get another one. If you're not vaccinated at this point, the US has to be at 4% positivity rate. I don't know if you've been looking at the positivity rates or if you've just become like shut off to that, but there was a time we were at 23% positivity rate. According to Johns Hopkins, we are now at a little over 6%. So we're heading in the right direction for this. I'm going to be making Iceland is supposed to be making another announcement in April regarding their entry requirements. And as of now, the CDC is requiring travelers by air get a negative COVID test before returning to USA. So if that's still something that is required, we will stop on our trip and get a group COVID test. It's something that I've been adding to our Costa Rica trips and to our Mexico trips and our Africa trips. So it's becoming something that's pretty popular. And if you have questions about the COVID stuff, we'll hang on to that one just till the end. So where we stay in, go ahead. Did somebody have something to say, Lori? Okay. All right. So in Reykjavik, we stay for both trips. Our base is the Snorri's guest house, and the guest houses are basically they're homes that have been turned into like mini hotels. And some of the rooms have private bathrooms, some of them are shared bathrooms. If you want a private room with a private bathroom, we certainly can upgrade your trip to that. You just need to contact me, and I can look at the different lodges or the different guest houses and see what options are. But it's not that there's like 50 people using your bathroom. What most likely will be is it'll be like you and 2 other participants sharing a floor, and you guys share a bathroom, from our group. But what I love about the guest houses in Iceland, I mean, I just think IKEA. I mean, everything there is very much like IKEA. It's very clean lines, attention to just cleanliness in general. And breakfasts are served, those are included in all the trips. It's usually like a European style continental breakfast where there's fruits and jams and skyr and different cheese spreads and delicious Icelandic bread. So that's what a typical breakfast is in Iceland. And even though, so your flights get in between 6 and 10, you're going to be tired. The best thing you can do is just walk off your jet lag. And the guest house this is called Pilgrim Skirka, which is the church. It's a big Lutheran church that is like kind of a main focal point in Reykjavik. And so this is the front of it here with the steeple. In the back, just down the hill is where the guest house is. So you can walk up to this church, you can walk down to Laugavegur Street and where the shops are, you can go have breakfast, you can get down by the water and see some of the, there's architecture to look at, and there are statues to see, and you can go to museums. There's the Phallic Museum, which usually everyone tries to find a way to go see. Yes, there's penises from all different types of animals there. You could go to the History Museum. You can go on a whale watching tour if you come in early, and those are some things that you could do. But it's a very safe, walkable city is the main thing. Okay, so the 2 different types of trips we offer. So the South Coast and Snæfellsnes Peninsula multi-sport 9-day trip. This is I'm going to go to just kind of show you here. So this covers a lot of ground. Okay, so we start here in Reykjavik, and we spend 1 night in Reykjavik, and then we first go up north to the Snæfellsnes Peninsula. And on this peninsula, we do a Viking Sushi boat trip. We see a variety of cool features, from cinder cones to lava that's about 10,000, like lava fields that are 10,000 years old, golden sand beaches, black sand beaches, black churches. There's some hikes to do here, and we go horseback riding. So we spend two nights on Snæfellsnes, and then we come back down, and this is the golden circle I was telling you about, where everybody comes in to go to Thingvellir National Park, which is the site of the first place of the birth of democracy in Iceland, and it's to believe the world. There's waterfalls there, geothermal features, and then we head down and we do like a beeline. This is almost a full day's drive. We stop and see some waterfalls along the way, but the goal is to get down to this little town here, and it's called I can't pronounce it, but it means the nuns village. Because there's a church there, and actually this church avoided being destroyed by one of the recent volcanic eruptions, and they believe that it was God that protected that little town. So we end up down here, and this is Skaftafell National Park, and home to the 2nd largest glacier in Europe, Vatnajökull, which we will see features of that. We go into Glacier Lagoons. We do some hikes out here, and then we'll start to make our way back slowly. Black Sand Beach with the basalt columns, Feather Canyon with hikes. We go glacier trekking, and we go sea kayaking down here, and we even do a trek up to a hot river, and before we're coming back to Reykjavik. So there's a lot. There's a lot there, right? And so then the Laugavegur hut to hut trek. This is for folks who want to hike. You shouldn't sign up for this trip if you don't want to hike, because even though it's not something that it's, I would say it's moderate to strenuous, depending on your activity level. The initial part of this trip, it starts off, you go up to like 2,000 feet of elevation. It's not that much, but you go straight up the first day, and then the second day is kind of like up and down, up and down. Then basically you kind of settle out with flat stretches. So you could do anywhere from 7 miles a day to 10 miles a day, depending on the topography for the day. But you do get to soak in one of the hot springs at Landmannalaugar. You see some of those beautiful landscapes, and this one really does feel like the microcosm. That's where I feel like I could be on Venus, I could be on the moon, I could be on Europa. Any nerds out there who know what Europa is, you can relate. Let's see, we'll learn about the Icelandic flora and fauna and folklore from the guide. We stay in mountain huts, and the mountain huts are dormitory style mountain huts. All the meals are included except for 2 dinners in Reykjavik, and all the planning's done. So your stuff gets schlepped for you. You just carry a backpack to each hut. So this is, looking at the map here, the ground you cover, and the blue here is by vehicle. It's a public bus, actually, a public bus with huge wheels that crosses rivers. It's not like a public bus here in Chicago. So you take a bus, as a group, we take a bus from Reykjavik out here to Landmannalaugar, and we start up here, and then we work our way down. It's 40 miles over 4.5 days of trekking, and then so it ends up in what's called Thorsmork. Thorsmork is one of the only forested places in Iceland. When the Vikings came to Iceland, they cut down all the trees, and the soil, it's not conducive to growing trees. So there is a reforestation project being done in Iceland. But that's just one of the cool things about this trip, is you go from like these stark habitats, extreme environments, to this beautiful lush valley of Thor. And and then we do also go to the Blue Lagoon on this trip too, because people need to see that. So what to bring on either trip? You can expect a high of 90 degrees and a low of 40 degrees. On my birthday one year, that's in July 26th. It was 90 degrees. I was in a tank top and shorts. It was very hot, and there was sun all over. The weather report had little sun icons all over Iceland. But you should be prepared for 9 days of rain and 9 days of 40-degree weather, especially those of you doing the Laugavegur trek, because you are just, what you're walking with is your shelter, right? Even though you're staying in huts, you got to get to the huts. So essential items for both trips would be a waterproof rain jacket with a hood and rain pants. And don't skimp on it. You shouldn't get something cheap from Walmart. You should make sure that it is waterproof and windproof. Don't bring anything cotton. You want some non-cotton warm layers and multiple thicknesses of those layers, so you can put on 3 thinner warm layers versus only having 1 thick fleece, because those thinner warm layers are going to be more versatile. You're going to want a pair of sturdy hiking boots, and definitely bring a towel for the different pools and lagoons that we're going to. For Laugavegur, for those who are trekking, you need all those things above, but then you also need trekking poles. And you need merino wool or smart wool base layer and socks. You need a 45-liter backpack with waist strap and hydration system. And you need power banks, because there's not really many places to charge your electronics out at the huts. So you need to be able to, you need to power up charge your phone with your own power banks. And one of the things that I also feel that is great about what we do with our clients is I really make sure that everybody has a very detailed packing list. You're not shrugging your shoulders wondering, what do I take on this trip? I have everything I have a very detailed packing list, and I've broken it down into, outer layers, mid layers, base layers. So people who come on the trip, as long as they follow the packing list, are well prepared. Travel insurance. So many of you might be thinking, well, travel insurance doesn't cover anything COVID. What's the point of getting travel insurance? That's not true. There are quite a few travel insurance companies out there that do protect your investment, even when it's COVID related. So COVID is being treated like any other illness. So if you test positive if you have a comprehensive travel insurance policy, or even a comprehensive travel insurance policy, and you test positive for COVID and you can't go on your trip, you are eligible for benefits that include trip cancellation because of that. If you test positive in a country because you have COVID, you have benefits that could give you trip delay, so cover any expenses that are occurring due to the fact that now you might have to quarantine or you have to get extra testing, or well, I should say, and any costs of the trip that you weren't able to participate on. So companies that are really reputable, would be Travel Guard, for example, TravelX. Those are some good companies that have a comprehensive travel insurance plan, meaning it protects not just you medically, but it also protects your trip investment. A trip to Iceland is about the cost of it, the 9-day trip is $41.75. The Laugavegur trip is about $3,000, $27.95. So those are investments that you should protect. Now, so the different types of insurance, you have comprehensive, you have medical. This day and age with COVID, I do not recommend you travel anywhere without medical insurance, because your domestic medical insurance policy back at home is not, like from work or whatever, is not going to protect you when you are international. Also, you want to look to see that you have quarantine coverage in case you should test positive. You want to look to see what are the maximum benefits that each policy has to offer. Now, what I've learned is, for example, Travel Guard has up to $1,250 in trip delay, which would cover you for like lodging or extra transportation, and then $500 for bed rest. But you're looking at like less than $2,000 there. So I'm finding other policies that I might even add to my own like umbrella trip insurance for $15 or $20. It gives me $7,000 worth of quarantine coverage. So these are the things that I'm spending a lot of my time investigating for you. And each one is really destination specific. The recommendations I gave my Costa Rica travelers are not the same ones I'm giving my Baja travelers. So, I need to wait a few more months to look at the picture here of what, I guess what travel looks like to give you a specific travel insurance plan. However, if you're interested in getting canceled for any reason, which it's back. When COVID hit, cancel for any reason was taken away from many travel insurance policy options because they didn't want people all of a sudden canceling. So cancel for any reason is up. In order to get that add-on to your insurance policy, you have to get travel insurance within 15 to 21 days of your initial trip deposit. So that could be problematic if you're waiting, right, to see what the status of travel is or what type of insurance you want. So you could, in theory, get a comprehensive plan that covers you, gets to cancel for any reason, and then you can add an umbrella policy later on if you need to. And you can even contact sometimes the insurance company that you've signed up with. You can call them and just change your coverage. The thing is, you can't add cancel for any reason 3 months after your deposit, but you could add an increase in coverage for lodging, for example, if they add that as something to customers. So the dates for 2021. So we have on the July 13 to 21 trip, currently we have 2 spots available. So on that 9-day trip, it's maximum of 12 participants. And so we have 2 spots open on that 13 to 21, and we have 6 spots open on July 29 to August 6th. And then for Laugavegur Trek, we have July 6 to 12, we have 16 spots. And July 22 to 28, we have 6 spots. If for some reason a bunch of I guess say only 6 people sign up for July 6th, and we don't reach critical mass of 10, then I will give you a full refund, or you can move to July 22 to 28, for example. I put on here that I have a private trip August 8 to 14 because some of you may be here from because you're interested in that private trip. So I wanted you to see that your date is on there. But also I wanted you to know that if any of you were interested in organizing your own team to do the Laugavegur trek, we just need 10 people and we can just make it a private trip for you. So whether you do it in 2021 or 2022 or beyond, that's fine. I have a great idea. Anybody who wants to organize their own team should go July 6 to 12. We got plenty of spots. But you can sign up at greenadventures.com and you go to Iceland and you can see the different itineraries. Side by side, looking at these, Snæfell's, South Coast and Snæfellsnes, Laugavegur trek. You just see that the reason why you can look at the cost, $41.75 for this 9-day trip, because there's so many activities added to this program, and we stay in guest houses and cabins. We have our own private minibus, but the only thing that's not included are most meals. You have all breakfast and 2 lunches, but the dinners and the rest of your lunches are not included. This just gives you the option to choose what you want to buy. Otherwise, I've got to estimate on the high side, and that just increases the price for this trip. Might as well just pay individually. And Iceland has it set up so there's no complaining by the restaurants like, well, we want everyone to be on one ticket. You can just have your own ticket. You walk up to the counter and you pay for after we have the sit down meal, you walk up to the counter and pay for your individual meal. It's so easy. The skill level is easy to moderate. We walk, looking at my pedometer on the Snæfellsnes 9-day multi-sport trip, there were some days we were 17,000 to 19,000 steps. That could have just been me and my 19,000 steps because I have to herd all of you like cats. So maybe I'm just running around, but do expect a lot of walking. It's not 19,000 steps all in one shot, but we might go drive for 2 hours, do a 2-hour activity, walking up to a waterfall or doing a short hike, and then drive another hour and then do another short hike. And then for Laugavegur, the main event is a 40-mile trek and through the highlands of southern Iceland. And then at the end, we do a Blue Lagoon visit. Last year when we were planning our Laugavegur trek, most people wanted to come in early and we planned a day tour together. So they came in a day early and I took them to the Secret Lagoon. Well, this never happened, but it was all in theory, right? So we were supposed to go to the Secret Lagoon. We're going to go to Thingvellir National Park, and we're going to see Gullfoss Waterfall and Geyser. So you even though you can't see all of the stuff on the South Coast trip, it gave the people who are just coming to Iceland for the Laugavegur trek who had never been there a little sampling of what Iceland has to offer. Okay, so I'll take a moment. Do you have any questions? If they have any questions, Lori, did anything come through? I'm not done yet, just so you know. Just taking a pause.
Haven't seen anything in the chat yet.
Okay. All right. Okay. So the next, I see, let's see, there's, okay, good. I can take a breath. Okay. So now what I want to do is I'll share my screen and I'm going to just show you some photos from the South Coast tour. Maybe. Just gotta find it. I think I know this. We just looked at this one, but hey. Okay, here we go. Well, you're all here, so that's good. You haven't. Nobody's left. I once did a puppet show and I had I couldn't see the audience and I was doing the puppets above my head when I worked for the Forest Service in Alaska, and it started off with a full room, and then I remember asking my friend who was also one of the other puppets, we're behind the box. I was like, I don't hear anybody, and we stood up and no one was there. It's another story. Okay, so one of the things, I'm going to just jump ahead here. This luggage is too big. And I actually took this picture and sent it to my guide. And I said, Christine, I hope we can fit all this luggage into
Tara,
this.
we're not seeing
Oh,
luggage.
you can't. What do you see?
We're seeing your side-by-side comparison PowerPoint.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you for helping me. Let me just go back in. All right. Now you're just seeing everybody else, right?
Right.
Okay. Now can you see it?
There we go. No, we're seeing the wait.
See it now?
We're seeing the empty van.
Yes, that's where you need to be.
Okay.
Good. All right. So I'll start here. This is what I was saying. This luggage is too big. And so when I came down into this is the lobby of the guest house, just to kind of see what, because when you arrive at 6 a.m., you'll bring your luggage here and just leave it at the guest house front desk. They'll watch over it so you can go walking around in Reykjavik. And I looked at the tags and I saw that they were my participants. And I sent a picture to my guide and I said, hope there's room for all this luggage. So I have refined my packing list, and I'm asking you to not bring more than 40 pounds. So it is possible to do that. And part of the reason I ask you not to bring more than 40 pounds is also there's no elevators in the guest houses, so you got to schlep your stuff up and down those stairs. For the Laugavegur trekkers, you'll need duffel bags so they could be transferred more easily. But anyway, so the packing list gives you some specifications. We ask that your luggage is not more than 40 pounds. And because we've got to put it into our minivan. And there was actually, we made it happen. It stacked up pretty high, but this is what our minibus looks like. I work with Icelandic mountain guides. So this is the vehicle. It's a Mercedes like Sprinter type van. So there's lots of room in there and really comfortable for our longer trips. So I told you the first place we go is the Snæfellsnes Peninsula, and we go on a Viking Sushi boat cruise. And so we take a boat out into, like, it's kind of a protected area, so they're not big waves. This is mainly like a geology, puffin, and associated birds tour. And so we go look at these animals, and then you'll get to see Atlantic puffins, and everyone loves them. You might see them with fish in their bills, and trying to take off from the water, but their bellies are too full, so they float. But this is where the Viking Sushi part comes in. So they pull up some of the invertebrates on the seafloor, and there's scallops and urchins and crabs, and they throw back pretty much everything that is not edible. But they in the little scallop shell, you have the mussel and soy sauce and wasabi, and they sell wine on board, and you just have this like sushi snack out on the Atlantic. One of the things that I like on the Snæfellsnes is we do a 2-mile hike along the coast, and it's just a really beautiful, easy walk. You see, nobody has trekking poles or anything. This isn't strenuous, and you're going through these lava fields, and it's covered in moss, and you're looking at different, like the potpourri of all these little flowers that are if you get close to the moss, and I love stopping to smell them, and it's just so fragrant. And the ultimate goal is to get down here to this little fishing house. Well, it's a former fishing house, a fisherman's house. And I actually found this place by accident. There's a parking lot from where I took this picture. And I actually didn't see the little house the first time I came here to do some scouting. I was looking for a restaurant at a lodge that's behind me, and it was closed. And then I was looking in the guidebook, and it said Fisher House. They have really good fish soup. And then I walked down the hill, and here this beautiful house is. And you could, if it's a nice sunny day, you could sit out on the porch, and they're known for their famous fish soup and their delicious bread. And it's not fishy at all. It's like a creamy broth. And it's one of the most colorful soups I'd ever seen. If I could dip my spoon into it right now, you'd see all these different, like purple vegetables and like, and then the big chunks of fish. It's just delightful. So this is one of the meals that is included in your in your package. Also, so Snæfellsnes Peninsula, I'm going to skip ahead for a second because I want to show you. Snæfellsnes is named because of this this volcano glacier that's called Snæfellsnes Jökull, and Jökull means glacier, and so the peninsula is named after this particular feature. And one of the places that we go horseback riding is right on the beach in the shadow of this beautiful like volcano. And it's one of the golden sand beaches, and you're riding Icelandic horses. And if you've never, like, the Icelandic horses are not only do they have a special gait called the tolt, and that your guide will show you, but it's not for just anybody to do. But it is, even though it's supposedly one of the most smoothest rides ever, Icelandic horses are really like they're headstrong, and so they like to keep you, your guides like to keep you in a line because that keeps your horse from taking off down this beach. They have yet to see that happen, but it's the stuff that I think about. But anyway, so Icelandic horses are you just feel this energy underneath them. You could tell they're just like, I'm a Viking. You have no idea who I am. I'm not some tourist ride. You American, but they are absolutely, like, I think the Icelandic horses, what I would have to say, are just one of my favorite things. This is a little out of, okay, so after we ride our horses, the horse riding is actually at a family farm. So the woman who owns this farm with these horses, they also will cook this big, fabulous Icelandic dinner for us. And so she's going around talking about the different types of food, and and we're all just like, please let us eat, we're starving. But it's absolutely it's some of the best food out there. So this is one of the place that we stay on the Snæfellsnes Peninsula are these summer cabins. So it's very typical to what Icelanders would stay in on their summer vacation. And I love this. Look at the turf roof, but you can walk down to the ocean from our cabins. And each cabin has 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. So there would be 4 people in our group sharing one of those cabins together. And we have each cabin has a hot tub. So after our day, we go to the hot tub and hang out. And we also have this amazing view of the Snæfellsnes glacier and volcano. And this is one of like 6 pictures that I took at different times of the night. I would just get up like at 1 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and 5 a.m. And the colors were different every time. It was just spectacular. So after 2 nights in the Snæfellsnes, we head back down towards Reykjavik. So remember, now we're going south, we're going to the Golden Circle. And on the Golden Circle trip, we go to Thingvellir National Park, which I had mentioned is the birthplace of democracy. It's where all the Viking chieftains came, and they decided that, all right, we'll vote for our best interest. And instead of just like, pillage, they actually talked it over and came to an agreement with laws. It was also a place where they convicted criminals. They made new laws. So we'll walk through here and talk about that. But from this isn't the view of the North American and Eurasian plate, but from here, you can look across the valley and you can see Europe, because this is where the plates divide. But there's a waterfall there, and just some other historical markers to look at. We go to, because this area's got a lot of geothermal energy, we go to a greenhouse that grows tomatoes, and they supply, I think, 20% of Iceland's tomatoes, and they're all grown on using geothermal energy and solar energy, geothermal energy. Sorry, so it's able to power lights throughout the year. So the greenhouse can function, and we'll do a tour of the greenhouse and learn about how they are, like, how it functions, how they use bees to pollinate, how they use I can't think of the term is right now, but they use like insects that will keep away bad insects without using pesticides and other chemicals. And then of course we have tomato soup, and we have a variety of amazing breads to choose from. So this is another lunch that's included. I told you the area is got a lot of geothermal, so we go to Geyser, which is the geyser. And did you know that Geyser in Iceland is the geyser that gave all geysers its name? And also the scientist whose last name is Bunsen, like he made the Bunsen burner. He studied um, uh, Yellowstone's geysers and came up with just some of the learning about the hydrology and how the quote unquote pipes work of geysers. And he was able to give, like, he's the guy who gave us all of our information on geysers. So I think that's kind of interesting that a scientist who studied Yellowstone's geysers gave us information on Iceland's geysers. But so we can walk around and see some of the geothermal features. And then we go to what's called the Secret Lagoon. And this is it's a more natural geothermal hot lagoon that, it's just nice that more of the locals know about. It's becoming more popular with tourists, but it's more off the beaten path though than, let's say, the Blue Lagoon. And there's little boardwalk paths to walk around. We stop at the Gulfus waterfall, which means the golden waterfall. And these pictures just don't do it justice. It's got like 3 tiers of cascades that go down that you can't see here. Usually this is where you see big rainbows, and you can walk down and get really close to it. But just for the sake of time, I just don't have a ton of photos on it. But like I said, Iceland's just got lots of waterfalls. So as we continue down the south coast, we go to Seylandsfoss, which this is a waterfall that you can walk behind. And here's a picture of one of my participants who was, behind the waterfall, and we got a photo of. There's Skogarfoss, which is another really popular waterfall along the south coast. You can walk right up to it, as close as the wind power will let you get. But that's a picture of me with the rainbow overhead. So it's just really, really magical. This is one of the black sand beaches. It's called Reynisfjara. And you got the basalt columns here, and then these are trolls. So Icelanders like to, they see trolls, and they believe in fairies and trolls. And the story is that these were trolls that were out coming back from fishing, and the sunlight got them, and they turned to stone. But so those are the two trolls on this beach. But it's just fun to kind of climb up on these basalt stacks and take some photos. Walk along the beach. This canyon's called Feather Canyon as we can still continue south. It's just another one of these beautiful hikes that we do. And it's just good food for the soul, and for your heart. On the south coast, as we start to get further east, we will go to Glacier Lagoons. So there's 2 different types of Glacier Lagoon trips we do. This one's called Falseleron. And on this trip, we take a Zodiac out into this Glacier Lagoon. So you can see the glacier behind us. This is Vatnajökull. It's part of it. Remember that 2nd largest glacier in Europe? And as it's receding, it is carving out and filling it. It's making space as meltwater fills the area that's been bulldozed out by the glacier. It creates these lagoons, and there's big icebergs on the lagoons. So we take a Zodiac ride. Your guide will talk to you about glacial ice and different types of ice. This seal, we actually saw a seal, and they called him Steve, the elusive Steve, the gray seal. And so you might see some seals out there. But also just a really great way to and you hope for a cloudy day on this day, actually, because the cloudy days make it easier to see this really blue ice. And notice what we're wearing. They outfit you with these jackets that, if you were to fall in, they have heating properties that are triggered by water and cold, so they will help keep you alive in the 45-degree water. But it's also good because it just keep you nice and warm, but you do need to wear rain pants to keep your legs dry, and boots are highly recommended. We go glacier trekking, and I actually like this picture because it shows that some days the glacier is not as blue as one would think it is. Actually, this is moraine, and a mixture of moraine, which is rocks that the glacier picks up, and also ash from one of the from that big eruption with Eyjafjallajökull, and that happened in the 90s. And so there's still this ash on the that after it might have been covered with snow or ice, but then it melted, and now you're seeing some of that ice. You're seeing the minerals of ash and moraine. It's just another. I just it's just kind of cool to, as your guide takes you on this, you know, like to learn about the different features of glaciers, about how to safely trek on them. We were drinking water from this glacial water, and we were doing push-ups to do it. So sometimes we just have fun while we're out there, and each person is given an ice pick. You can see everyone's holding ice picks and crampons. So they're the spikes that go on your shoes so that you have some stability and security. And then also, as we continue to keep making our way towards Reykjavik, we stop in a town called Stokeseri. No, I'm sorry, Stikkishólmur. And no, I'm sorry, it's Stokeseri. My apologies. Stikkishólmur is where you do the Viking sushi. So we go sea kayaking. We start off in these kind of like flooded like reeds or grasses, and there's these little meandering freshwater rivers, and along the way you might see horses from a nearby farm. We see them 90% of the time come up to us, and you know, I don't know, they might get close enough to pet them, but usually it's just close enough for a cute picture. And as we start to get closer to the ocean, there the guides have actually created this like man-made river. They piled up some stones, and so you ride this little river out into the Atlantic Ocean. And then on the Atlantic Ocean, there's big kelp beds that you might see the gray seals. There's different birds to see, and then we end up back back up at on land in town, and we're able to walk over to return our paddles, and then we usually go for a swim at the community pool. And going to the pools is actually a really cool experience because, again, those are things that it's you and some people from the neighborhood who are in the pool. It's not like something on someone's itinerary. Also, over by the Glacier Lagoons, this slide's a little out of order here, but we go to Diamond Beach. And so remember that lagoon I showed you with the big icebergs? Those go out on rivers and they end up on these black sand beaches. And then you can just interact with them, stick your hand in some of the ice holes, sit on them, take pictures of them on the beach. It's just really, really beautiful. The final hike that we do on the South Coast trip is up to a hot river. And so it starts off on kind of it almost looks like a Jeep road, but all along the way you see some, bubbling mud pools. And then as you get to higher elevation, you can see more of the valley, and it's really beautiful. This hike is 5 miles each way. No, sorry, 2.5 miles each way. So 5 miles round trip. And it's not difficult, but you do have to go. Some people need to take it slow because that two miles going up this, it's only, I think, 1,600 feet elevation. But for some people, that's a little bit of work, but it's not impossible. And the ultimate goal is to get down to the river and soak in it. So you can see some of the steam coming from behind. Iceland smells like rotten eggs. So if you're wondering what Iceland smells like, it smells like those little flowers I told you about, the little potpourris and the grasses, and rotten eggs and fresh air. I mean, what more could you want? And then, of course, the last thing we do is we go to the Blue Lagoon. And yes, some people say that this is just something that everybody does. Well, there's a reason why everybody does it. It's fun, and it's a really cool place just to see. I think it's considered one of the wonders of the world. And there's a lot of Icelanders go there because they feel like there's healing properties to to moisturizing your skin, or if you have psoriasis. So it's just the minerals are good. They actually even sell some of the masks. here's they give you free masks. You walk up to that little bar behind and you can put these mineral masks on, but you could buy other masks if you want, like algae masks or volcanic volcanic masks. And then there's also a bar there, so you could buy drinks, and it's nice. But what's good about this too is that you're on your way to the airport. So it's usually on day 9, we have breakfast. We have a shuttle, a private shuttle that takes us to the Blue Lagoon. We do Blue Lagoon. You take a shower, blow dry your hair, and then you go to the airport, and you're just refreshed for your 6 or 8 hour flight that you take back home. And as I told you, like most of the meals aren't included on this trip, but we do go to some unique places with good food. I mean, just here's a photo of just kind of like what a typical dinner is like. I mean, this is a salmon, the salad. So that they have, it's just nice to be able to try out a bunch of different restaurants. Any questions about the South Coast trip?
No questions.
All right. So now let's talk about Laugavegur. Okay. So I'm going to
Excuse me, Tara. I did have a question that I had sent in. It looked like it went to somebody named Mary Johnson, actually. But have you had any conversations at all with the airlines, Icelandic Air, and what their stance is on whether or not, if we can't get into the country and we make our reservations or can't go for whatever reason, do you have any idea or clue as to what their policy would be for refunds?
Yeah, well, I can tell you what I know based on my personal experience. Last year, everybody got refunds. So everyone who had booked their flights all got refunds. It wasn't just a voucher. So that's good. And Iceland Air on their website has been very upfront about flexibility. So if you just go to icelandair.com and look, I haven't looked in a couple of days, but I remember still seeing that they were flexible. So there's definitely that. And then also my policy too, I mean, because you have to look at it from our perspective, like Green Adventures, when we're making reservations too, is going to be the same that we did in 2020, which was if for some reason we can't go because the US isn't allowed to go, if the US isn't allowed to go, then you can have a refund less your deposit, which is transferable to next year if you want to go in 2022, or you can just postpone altogether and still it transfers to 2022. So does that make sense? So there's like if people just want to cancel outright, they're like, I don't plan on going in 2022. I just want out now. You would lose your deposit. But it's not, you wouldn't lose $5,000. Okay. And there are different deposits. So like the Laugavegur trip is it's like $600. The 9-day trip is $750. So, and these are just, I have to send money to Iceland on your behalf long before trips happen. And this is the agreement that I have with my partners in Iceland. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's a good question. It's something I actually I feel so confident that I was actually going to be buying my airline tickets just the other day because they were announcing they had a sale and I got distracted. But I will be buying my airline tickets. Hold on one second. I will be buying my airline tickets soon. I saw that you're talking about what Barbara had popped up here, Lori? Okay. Yep. Yeah, I actually can see this now. Okay. So there are. Going back to the entry requirements, May 1st, that's not the case. So Barbara writes, right now there's a quarantine when you enter Iceland, assuming there's any quarantine, the trip will not happen. That is correct. So if there's if we know going into it that we have an extended 5-day quarantine or something, then we're going to go back to that Green Adventures cancellation. It's like, all right, do you want to go next year or do you just want out altogether? And then here's what we have to work with. But yeah, it would not be possible for us to do a trip if there's a quarantine. But hopefully we will get down to our 4%. And then again, anybody who's vaccinated automatically is allowed to get in, even if you're from a red country.
Where do you track that PCR?
Johns Hopkins website. Oh, no, I'm sorry. The PCR test or the positivity test?
Positivity, sorry.
Oh yeah, so I look on Johns Hopkins website, and I just look
Thank
up,
you.
yeah, sure, I look up US positivity rate.
So I think I'm also hearing that we don't have to be vaccinated, because where
Nope.
I fall in line, I don't know if I will be able to get a vaccine in time. Just that a COVID test before leaving, and then when you get there,
Yes.
is what would be needed.
Yeah, and I've actually looked a little bit further. Well, I need to look further into it because there's green and orange, and I think green, and it comes down to other like other details, and I'm just waiting for the next update. But if you're green, I think you just need a PCR test going. That's it. No testing at the border. But if our country is orange, which is still 4%, but still has some other like medical jargon in there about how our country's dealing with the pandemic, we get the PCR before, and when we show up at the border, we get the PCR again, but there's no quarantine. You don't have to go isolate and wait for results. They'll probably do what they've been doing with everybody, is have everyone do a contact tracer on their phone.
What is the cost of the test?
Right now it's free.
Okay.
Yeah.
And contact tracer on the phone. I don't have an international SIM card or whatever is needed, so they can put it on my phone, but I wouldn't have my phone on.
Right. Well, that's, I don't know how they deal with it. I've dealt with a lot of people. I'm sure you fall into that category. I think that what they were doing is they were highly encouraging, because you have to put down where you're staying, and you tell them your contact information in the country. So they'll find you. You'd probably give them my information, and then I would tell you if something came up. Yeah. It's a good question. All right, so let's dig into Laugavegur. Okay, so with Laugavegur, what I did was, I'm going to share my screen again. So those of you who, if those of you who are here for the 9-day trip, if you want to, I would love it if you want to stick around, but if you want to go because you're not interested in the hiking trip, you could do that. But you've stuck around this long. Let's talk about Laugavegur. Okay, I just need to figure things out. Okay. Screen share. Let me find it, sorry. Okay, good. So I want to go and start with what's on the Facebook page. So there's an interest group, the Green Edventures Iceland Women's Laugavegur interest group. And in here, I've put down the days, each hiking day. So we already know that on this trip, you're starting in Reykjavik and ending in Reykjavik. So on day 2, we will walk down to the bus station, which is, I think it's like a 10-minute walk. I don't remember the distance, but we walk down to the bus station, and that's where we're going to meet our guide. And so our guide will check us all in, and then I actually have a picture of the bus. I'll show that probably at the end. So we're on the bus it's a public bus for people who are all going on this trek. It could be working with different companies. It could be self-guided, but it's about a 3-hour ride with a stop in the middle to Landmannalaugar. And let me see. Did you see a map change? Did you see that?
Now we're seeing the map.
You see the map? Okay, good. So I just want to show on the map here. So it's 3 hours to go from Reykjavik up here to Landmannalaugar. And so this is where the trailhead starts. And each of these is a hut. So we're basically gaining about 2,000 feet of elevation and then dropping down in elevation as we start to go. This is, just remember this one called Swan Lake. This is one of my favorite huts. And then we end up in Thorsmark down here. Okay, so I just wanted to just kind of review that again. Sorry, wrong one. Okay, so Landmannalaugar, this was a nice, pretty sunny day. This is where we have lunch after our 3-hour ride, and we can soak in this little hot river. One thing about Iceland, and this goes for pools and it goes for geothermal features outdoors, is that Icelanders are not self-conscious. I mean, people basically just drop their clothes off and put a bathing suit on out in the outdoors and then go get in the water. So whenever you get into a lagoon or to like a geothermal feature that's like Secret Lagoon or Blue Lagoon, you have to take a shower naked before you can go into these places. And sometimes there are private dressing rooms and sometimes it's communal naked showers. Okay, so the guide points out, we're going Laugavegur to Thorsmark, kind of, talk about the whole itinerary. And what I love about the first day was just how, this day actually had like these rhyolite mountains, and it had the most color to it, but it also had the most up to it. But I mean, like, doesn't this look like something out of The Hobbit? All these lava flows, and you could see, the geothermal, steam coming up. And look at these rainbow mountains. But see, I can also see too, as we start to get some, like it gets steep. So it's really important that you have trekking poles and good hiking shoes. And actually, if you look in the back behind her, you see that's where we came from. We crossed through all that lava field, and there's a trail. It's not like you have to like hop over lava fields. There's a footpath, but we crossed through all that and climb our way up. And then eventually work our way to the first hut. So you see we're getting up higher and higher and higher. I'm trying to get over to the hut. But what I like too here is that you see that these green areas, oh, actually, so you see the green areas, this is where like, we're up in, there's snow and green, because the hot area has all of these, it's conducive to vegetation. But in the next scene, we're gonna cross a snow field. And you can see we went from wearing like t-shirts and, short sleeves or so to like, winter hats. And this is the hut, the first hut that we're going to. And this is actually what the hut looks like. Okay, so now this I would have to say is the least fancy hut. And it's actually, this hut has, let me see if there's any photos of this. Sorry, last time I looked at this, there were some pictures specifically of this hut. Why isn't, hold on, oh, here it is, photos. There we go. Okay, so so there was at one point the huts were having like, depending on the size of them, they could have up to 120 people. Now they're like half capacity. So you'll see where it was 120, now is 60. But so this hut has like dorm style bunk beds on the inside. And this one, like I said, this was actually the most rustic of them. And I don't think they're actually going to show me what the inside looks like on this one. And basically it was like a room with beds all lined up, and you in your sleeping bag will lay, side by side with other people. We try to keep it just our group. With a group of 10, we most likely can fill a room for just us. But if there was like only 6 or 7 of us, there might be other hikers that join us, and so you could have men in the room with you, but it depends on our group size. Sorry. Okay, so inside each of these huts, there's a kitchen that our guide will prepare all the meals, and then we sit at our own little dining area, and then this one has, so the facilities are outside. And so this one actually had pit toilets, where the other ones have flushing toilets, but it's like almost like a national park campground in terms of the bathroom facilities. This was the most rustic. But just here, I guess here's another photo of just kind of our video of what it's like to do some hiking back here. All right, so let's go to day 2. So the first day you're hiking about 7 miles, And I would have to say I really got into it on the second day. Like you don't go to bed completely exhausted, but you definitely go, you are tired. You've been hiking for 6 or 7 hours during the day, but you're not carrying your, you're only carrying the stuff on your back that you need for, layers and your lunch. And someone does carry the hot water so we can have hot tea or coffee along the way. But when you come out of that first hut that I just showed you, there's a hiking trail right off the hut, and so it just gives you a really beautiful view of Landman Lager behind you. But the thing that I just absolutely loved was that it was covered in obsidian. And like, it's so hard to get a picture of this, but there was obsidian everywhere. And it looked like dragon glass, from Game of Thrones. And the only other place that I know of that has so much obsidian is the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem. And it probably has to do with the super volcano and geothermal features that are under our feet. So just, some pictures of obsidian here. But as we start to go, we're heading down in elevation. The goal today is to get to Swan Lake, so Altavatan, right here. And so I'm just going to show some pictures of, so we get orientation in the morning, we do a little bit of stretching, and these are just some of the features. You have you deal with, the inclines aren't horrible, but for some people they could feel a little intimidating, and we cross over snow fields. And you can see some of the snow has been it's just like a snow bridge. Again, more geothermal. And just really great photo opportunities. And so we'll stop and have lunch, look at some of these other, boiling hot pools, and then you see right here off in the distance, that's Swan Lake. And so our goal is to get to that lake. And I feel like after this day was, day one was going up, and day two is going down and up, down and up. There's like no rhyme or reason to the topography. You're dealing with a little bit of recent volcanic eruption. You're dealing with glaciers that have eroded. So so it's just when you think you're going down, sometimes you are going up. And yeah, just Swan Lake. And this is the first day we actually crossed a river. And on the packing list, it says to bring neoprene socks and sandals because you don't want to carry around wet, like hiking shoes, but also just walking with barefoot in sandals. This is glacial water. It's literally freezing. So you put on some neoprene socks with your strappy sandals like Tevas or, Tevas would be the best. And, use your trekking poles to get across, and then change your shoes on the other side. And you can do some shopping before you go on this trip so that when you show up at Hutch, you have access to, some adult beverages. And I like to each night kind of sit out on the porch wherever we were and drink an Icelandic beer. Okay, so if you go into the Facebook group, you can actually, if you need access to it, you can just let me know. But it has the topography, the change of elevation. It has everything you need to know about that particular hike. Okay, day 3. This is our first big real river crossing. So we're going to go from, let's see, all of a sudden I'm trying to remember which direction we go on this. Okay, so now we're heading south, and we're going to go through the big sand plains. And so you see where we get to a point where now it's like we're not really going up and over mountains. We're just kind of walking on flat terrain. And we will come to it. So now we're also on F roads. So this is how, if there is an emergency, a big 4-wheel vehicle can get back here. It's also how your luggage is transported. But you're walking these F roads, and these are just lava fields that are now, just these desert lava fields. And you see these like markers that you've seen along the way on this. This is a really good reason why we have a guide, because even though on this trek it was mostly blue skies and no rain, we didn't have any rain at all. Fog could come in and make it difficult to navigate. People have been lost out here and died of exposure. And just kind of a typical sandwich, a lunch, a resting spot and having lunch. Your guide will talk a little bit about the area. And on this one, we took a slight detour and went over and looked at this canyon. It had a waterfall in it, and I actually am afraid of heights, so I didn't get too close to the edge, but there are some people who got nice and close. So this lodge is kind of in the shadow of a glacier. And it was, even though it looks sunny and almost blue skies here, it was actually pretty cold outside to be sitting out on the deck. But inside there is actually, well, I'll get back to that in a second, but here's a kind of a bigger river that we had to cross. See, but none of these are like gonna take you out kind of rivers. I've crossed bigger rivers in Alaska, but still it's cold, and it takes some mental preparation to want to get across. What I want to show you, I'm going to see if I can find this hut, Imistur. Go back, because there's better pictures of huts that I've seen back here before. Okay, this is this hut. Okay, so now notice there's more huts here, and each hut has like a dormitory room attached to it with its own kitchen. So like on this trip I did, it was all of us in one room with bunk beds, and then there was a kitchen in there as well, and that's where we had our meals. Go down here to photos. And it was actually, I felt like one of the nicest huts as well. It was nice and clean. The bathrooms were clean. There's space on the inside. So here's an example of what those bunk beds built into the wall are like. And then, the big dining table for you to eat. And when you come into the huts, you're not allowed to wear your shoes. So it's good to have like a pair of like clogs, or even you can, if you wore wool socks with the sandals that you use to cross the river, those would be okay for inside the huts too. And then day 4, we start to head into Thorsmork Valley. So this is where we were, this Emstur here. And our goal is to get down to Thorsmork here. This is Thorsmork. And so, we leave the huts. And again, just more beautiful scenery. We cross over some bridges. We have a river crossing that we need to do. And this was actually, I think, the deepest and most challenging of the river crossing. But then you see all of a sudden it goes from like stark landscape to forest. And so we walked these forest trails, and it was blue skies and a nice warm day. And we're actually down here behind them is where Thorsmork is. And there's all these glacial rivers that are going through here. Birch trees are the most common tree in Iceland. So you see lots of birch trees, and I think there's some willow trees. And this is what we've been looking for, as this is the end of the trail, which is the hut at Thorsmork. And this actually is the best hut. I felt like the accommodations were it was more spacious. It was just kind of a newer built hut. And here's just a scene from walking over one of the bridges, crossing rivers. And see, our guide is just trying to help people navigate, because it wasn't a straight walk. She actually had to zig a little bit and zag a little. And then on the 5th day in Thorsmork, actually, let me see if I can show you a picture of Thorsmork huts. They might actually be under a different, let's see, they might be under a different management. So all these huts are managed by the Icelandic hiking community. I think Thorsmork's huts are managed by a private company. So I can't show you that right now, I'm sorry. All right, and then day 5. So we do a little bit of hiking in Thorsmork, and we go up to a place called the Singing Cave. Here's just lunch. But you go up to the Singing Cave, and you go inside, and it's just got nice acoustics. In Iceland, there's lots of singing caves. And these, there's going to be a bus that's going to come pick us. So this is the bus we take. The public bus that took us to Landmannalaugar is also the public bus that's going to get us out of Thorsmork. And so you'll see this bus crossing the rivers. It's quite impressive. And when you're on the bus and crossing rivers, you're definitely aware that you're crossing some strong waterways. Pretty cool, huh? So
Tara, I'm shocked these buses can even make this.
What's
I'm
that?
looking at that like, oh my God. I'm shocked that these buses can even make it through that, honestly.
I know. And you can see how tall. I mean, so Maria in this photo is, I think she's like 5'4". So she's not the tallest person in the world, but still that's, I mean, and then you have our guide over there to the right. She is probably 5'6". So you can see she's the tires are huge. And then, yeah, we go back to Reykjavik and we'll go out to dinner, and then you can walk around town. And this picture is probably taken at like 1 a.m. though. So I'll just show you how, like that it gets, the light actually around, let's see, between July and August, you could expect 19 to 15 hours of daylight. So that's the Laugavegur program. And so, you know, if you're not in this interest group and you want in, I even think on the Iceland, on the website, it does have the actual elevations. It has more details about rivers we're crossing that day. So yeah. Any other questions? I know we covered a lot.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
You were talking about, so this is for the hike trip, that we would have all of our stuff in a duffel. Is that right? And
Yes.
then you'd have a day pack. With the day pack, you're talking the 45 liter, or are you thinking like 25, how big? I guess is what I'm asking.
Yes, that's a really good question. Thanks for bringing that up. So your duffel bag will have all your stuff that you don't, that's like your luggage. Your checked luggage will go ahead and it'll meet you at the hut that you're going to. So each day gets shuttled by a vehicle. But on your person, you need all of your layers. And I have found that the 25 liter just doesn't work. We need like a 45 liter backpack because the layers take up space. And then your lunch, and then whoever gets stuck carrying that hot water, we share the load. But I was such a baby about it when I carried it. I don't know, especially because I carried it on the first day, which is that day we go up and up and up. I was like, who wants some hot tea? Should we stop and have hot tea? That'd be a great idea to do that right now. So yeah, 45 with a hydration bladder. And most people who are used to doing any kind of hiking trip, whether even like through hiking, realize that they need something, yeah, with a waist strap and padded shoulder straps. You can't just take a school backpack on this.
Right,
but you also don't need to spend $500 on a backpack either. If you shop around, you get something good.
At each of the huts, I'm assuming within our duffel, we've got like our sleeping bag and the whole gig there.
Actually, you can have two separate. So with the sleeping bag, you could just have like a stuff sack, and you can have 2 items, and then you could just, you don't have to have it into your duffel bag as well. So you can fill up my duffel is 65 liters. I filled up a 65 liter duffel with all my essentials, my layers, my power banks, anything I needed for that trip. And then, and I had my sleeping bag separate to that. And just to go over kind of like, yeah, what are some things you need on this trip? Obviously, you're going to need your good hiking clothes, but plan on wearing them multiple times. Like I think I brought 3 base layers that I shuffled through. So some days I wore my same base layer top 3 days in a row. I just wear whatever makes me feel the most comfortable, because if you buy a merino wool or smart wool base layer, that's like $100. Those are good quality materials, and they don't stink. At least you don't care if they do anyway, but they don't stink. So, and then you can, cycle through those and layer them up over time. You don't need clothes for like going out. You just need like one pair of clothes for like, nighttime, like that serves as like, I have like a pair of thick fleece pants that I use for hanging out at huts and sleeping at huts. And then also bringing, I've mentioned before, power banks is important because of charging. Any kind of like beverages that you really like, even if, like I like a really good coffee to start my day. And if I don't have good coffee to start my day, it could be a hard day for me. So I bring Starbucks Via. I just like to have those things as stuff I know I need, like wet wipes, so I could like clean up if I didn't want to take a shower. Showers are $5 for each hot shower that you do, and you can buy them from the warden of the huts. You can buy those, but not all places have showers. I think it was maybe three of the huts had showers, and I think I took a shower twice. Try to think if there's anything else on that trip that, like energy blocks. I need, like goo packs or Gatorade blocks. People who like to do like marathon, like endurance sports, it was nice to have that in the middle of my day, because I started to, I don't know, I felt myself kind of pooping out, and I wasn't like exhausted. I just needed more. I needed fast energy, and so I really enjoyed having those with me. But we're fed really well. I mean, the meals at night are anything. Now, if you're a vegetarian, it's gonna be tougher for you. If you're a flexitarian, and you could find something that you really like on any that's provided. But like they have like they'll do lamb soup or lamb stew one night. They make a fish one night. The food is just always just high quality. And I think one of the things too on either Iceland trip that you could start to recognize is that the food we get in the United States doesn't have a lot of nutrients to it. It's a lot of food, but it's not good for us. And when I was eating in Iceland, I could eat the bread there and not feel like I gained weight, and I could eat a small portion and feel like I'm full. So I just feel like it's just more nutrient packed. Any other questions? Yeah, I do feel like since we've covered a lot, it was hard to focus on one thing. So my brain is a little scattered, but you know how to reach me if there's something in particular you want to know about. And then, and I mentioned you can back to back any of these trips. So if you wanted to go to Iceland and get the full thing, you could do the Laugavegur trek and do the 9-day trip back to back. And then if you do that, we'll just work it out so you don't have to do the Blue Lagoon twice. Maybe it'll just take the cost off your trip, or we could schedule another activity for you to do that you wouldn't have had a chance to do. Cool. All right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me and for your interest, of course, in this trip. Iceland is really, people ask me, what's your favorite trip? And I always feel bad picking a trip because I love them all. I made them all, right? They're like my children. How can I say what my favorite is? And there are 3 that surface right away for me. First one is Baja, my Sea of Cortez trip, because it's the marine biologist in me's dream. Like I get really great experiences with big animals, and it's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. The second is Iceland, because Iceland, I love to walk, and there's something about Iceland that makes me feel like I could walk all day. It brings this energy. It's a happy place. And you know how they say there's some places in the world like Sedona where the vortices, there might be some energy about it. Something about Iceland. As soon as I get there, I'm happy. I love the coastal, the cold coastal atmosphere. I love the smell of it. I love the history of the Vikings. So yeah, the landscape has a different mood all the time. So I like Alaska. That was one of my favorite places. It is one of my favorite places. But what I love about Iceland more than Alaska is that Iceland is like Alaska without the things that can kill you. Like bears and moose. You don't feel like you're going to be trampled by something. You can literally just relax and walk. You don't have to Did I hear a bear? You know, like, where's my bear spray? Mentally rehearsing that. So that's what I like about Iceland. And then the other is Africa, partially because it's one of my newest destinations. And that has an indescribable feeling too, of just being connected to a source energy that feels like coming home. So anyway, so Iceland, if I have 13 destinations and I'm telling you Iceland falls in the top 3, I could tell that must mean something, right? I could just keep going over and over again. And hopefully I will be there for 6 weeks this year. So by the time I see you, unless it's the first one, the July trip, I will have been there a while. Okay. Good. Well, thanks a lot. It was nice to see you all, yeah, I look forward to seeing you in Iceland, if not in 2021, 2022, or 2023.
Awesome, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Good, but don't think too far beyond 2023, because even that does. Who knows what happens after that? All right, I'll let you guys sign off on your own. If anybody wants to stick around and ask me questions or talk, I'll be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.